And let's get back to Stephenson, let's get back to B.J. Palmer, let's get back to the 33 principles, and here we are, principle number 5, moving our way through. So it's called the perfection of the triune. So within any organism there is 100% life, and 100% life comes from there being 100% intelligence. There's this kind of non-negotiable constant that intelligence is in the universe, and then when you take that down from a macroscopic to a microscopic level, there's always 100% of intelligence, as much as there needs to be. And as you can see from this little photo there, there's different shapes, there's different sizes, there's different beings, but each one of those has 100% of the intelligence that it requires for that particular body to function. There's 100% force, and then there's 100% matter. So that's the formula that's required to have what we would call health or wholeness or optimum potential or human potential. We need to have all of those factors working side by side and together. So here's an interesting concept, and I guess most of us have heard of the concept of the limitations of matter. But matter is the only part in this sort of triangle that can be imperfect. And the way it can be imperfect is in quantity, quality, or arrangement. And this is an interesting point to contemplate when you're thinking about your practice members' quality of life. What is quality of life? Is the quantity they have in their life, the quality that's within that life, and the arrangement of that life. When you look at those three variables, they're quite important when you're looking at someone's well-being and someone's state of health. So what I'm going to propose to you is what I call the chiropractic theory of special relativity. So we talked about E equals mc squared, and we're noticing that we've got those three components, the E being the energy, the M being the mass, and the C being the speed of light, the big constant. And we're noticing in the 33 principles that we have F, which is force, we have M, which is matter, and we have I, which is intelligence. So we have these almost seemingly analogous three dimensions. So here's the chiropractic theory of special relativity. So F equals M times I squared. So force equals matter times intelligence squared. So I've just taken artistic license, basically interchanging terms. So your energy in our terms is force. Mass in physics terms is our matter in our chiropractic language. And the C, that big constant, the speed of light, in chiropractic the big constant of this idea of intelligence. We've just said that it's 100% all of the time, and the speed of light is 100% all of the time. So here we have our chiropractic theory of special relativity, and you can see that in a practice member what we're wanting to see is their body transitioning between these two states. We're wanting their force to be working to move their matter. We're wanting their matter to be manifesting the force. We're wanting the intelligence to be driving all of these things to be at our optimum human potential. So moving on to principle number 6 of the 33 principles. So the principle of time. And it's interesting because some of these principles, when you read them, it's quite easy to gloss over them. But I think this is almost one that should be a poster on your wall, or it should be somewhere in your report of findings, because what is one of the most consistent questions you will get from practice members is, how long is this going to take? And so we need to explain to them, well, there is a principle of time. So here's the truth of the matter is that there is no process that does not require time. So someone comes in and they have this hope that their back's out and you're going to crack them or pop them, and then their back's going to be in and they're going to walk out of there straight and pain-free. It's almost like they're wanting to cheat time. They're wanting to bypass any kind of healing process that might need to be going on there. And let's be honest, for a new practice member, it's critical that we break that comprehension or that hope or that fantasy that they're just going to come in and they don't have to do anything, nothing has to happen, their body doesn't have to have any kind of process, that they just need to be cracked and they're going to walk out of there the way that they would like to be. So think about this. So for intelligence to organise matter requires a procession of events. Like when you're a single cell and that cell is fertilised, for it to get to being a full human being, there's literally cells have got to divide, things have got to connect together, things have got to differentiate. So there's a step-by-step process to get from one point to another point. So one event after another requires units of time. So I don't know what you do in your practice. In my own practice, I try to come up with almost an estimate for practice members with what's going to be required. I know that in some practice management schools there is just this idea of 3 times a week for X number of weeks. The scheduling kind of idea of practice management. But I like to have some way of somehow analysing and quantifying where someone's at right now, and to have an end point of where they should be at, and then procession of events that needs to go on between those two things to to get to where they want to be and to get to where you want them to be. So Bruce Lipton covers this topic really well. If you want to research another really inspirational and educational speaker, then I suggest that Bruce has got a lot of stuff on YouTube. He's got video resources, he's got books that you can purchase nowadays, so it's really worth exploring. But with his research in the early days in terms of epigenetics and cellular biology, he basically came to the conclusion that life is never static. We're always in a process, so we're always in, travelling through time, step by step is going on. But here's what he found, that there's only one or two directions that a cell, and if you want to apply this to the human being, maybe you can expand it out to that, but it's always heading in one of two directions. Either it's moving towards healing and development, or it's heading into dis-ease. So cells can't be kind of anywhere, they can't really be static. They're always heading in one direction or the other. So this is what he said. He says, cells cannot move in both directions at the same time. They're either in growth, open to the environment, assimilating what's going on, or they're in protection, shutting themselves down, waiting for the environment to clear itself before again expressing their normal functions. And don't you see that in your practice members where, when they first come in to see you, it's almost like a lot of components of their life, their emotional subsystems, their social, everything's kind of seems to be closing down and contracting and fixating, and then as they start to heal, they suddenly start to say, I've noticed, I can see things again, I'm feeling happier, the sun seems brighter, I've started reading, I want to exercise, what should I be eating? It's like people seem to open up as their nervous systems seem to start to be working and functioning better. And then again, a crisis will happen and something bad will happen in that person's life, and it's almost like they go back into this kind of hibernation kind of state. So Stephenson's 33 Principles, number 7. So the amount of intelligence in matter. The thing about the 33 Principles that I find is they're a little bit repetitive. It's almost like they look at the same thing from a couple of different points of view. So we've almost said principle number 7 earlier in one of the earlier principles. So the amount of intelligence in matter is 100% for any given amount of matter. Whether you're a rock on the ground, there's 100% of the intelligence that needs to be in that rock for it to do what that rock needs to do. Whereas for a human being, there's 100% of intelligence in me, and I'm not talking about how smart I am or what my marks are at university. I'm talking about the inborn energy that's coming out from the universe and that's within me as a single organism. There's 100% at any given point in time. So it's proportional to its requirements. So obviously the amount of intelligence in a rock is hopefully less than the amount of intelligence that needs to be inside of me for all of my functions to be working at 100%. So the limitations of matter may prevent expression. And it's just relevant for organic and inorganic matter. Sometimes when we start talking about the 33 principles and talking about chiropractors, we really start to just talk about the human being, how intelligent, wonderful and amazing we are. But the fact is that there is intelligence in anything, whether it be man-made, whether it be a bit of mud on the ground or some grass. Each part of the organic and the inorganic systems have got some degree of intelligence built into them. The other thing I found with the 33 principles is as I started to study the quantum physics theorems, it's almost like I already knew the 33 principles. They start to sound a little bit repetitive and a little bit obvious almost. So it's almost like, as I said before, this I, this intelligence is like a constant. It's like this huge thing that's built within every organism and that's pervading all the way through the universe. It's just an enormous requirement for things to work. When you think about evolution, when you think about the Big Bang theories, when you think about how does a single cell become a whole human organism, when you think about any biological process, within that is some kind of intelligence. There is some kind of order. There is sometimes of organisation. So it's like this massive constant that exists in our universe and within each one of us. So in quantum physics, there are some terms, as you've probably noticed, I'm already interchanging terms. I'm saying that the speed of light is kind of analogous to our concept of intelligence. There's another term that's used a lot in quantum physics that we also need to get our head around. And again, I believe it's more an interchangeable term with what we call intelligence. And the term they use is information. And whenever you listen to any of these quantum physicists, you'll hear them talking about this idea of information, and really it's kind of like, again, as a constant that's in there, that everything has information built into it. Otherwise, how does it get to be structured, or how does it get to be organised, unless there is information that communicates and directs that organisation. So again, it can become a little bit abstract when we're looking at quantum physics, because a lot of some of these theorems came from when they were exploring the ideas of black holes. And so not many of us are ever going to experience a black hole. Not many of us are going to see a black hole. There's no way that most physicists are going to be able to go into a black hole to measure what they're talking about. But they use these thought experiments to challenge and to stretch and to figure out how the universe works. And it was interesting when they were researching black holes, and obviously Stephen Hawking, is one of the lead personalities that comes along with any scientific studies of black holes. So again, I'm going to show you a video in a moment, but I'll just kind of summarise what it's going to be talking about. There's this idea that there's this black hole and something can be sucked and drawn into the black hole, and there's a point of it entering into that black hole where it's kind of, there's no way it's ever going to get back out again. So they were talking about this idea of what happens, to the matter, what happens to particularly the information that is stored. Like if I fall into a black hole, is any information that's ever been kind of stored in my body, is it lost, to all eternity? So Stephen Hawking talked about how when a particle falls into a black hole, much of the information is lost to the outside universe. And he had this idea that it would go in and there'd be a small amount of radiation would be released that was called the Hawking radiation. But intensively, all of the information about that particular structure was gone, never to be seen again. So black holes that lose more mass than they gain are expected to shrink and ultimately vanish. So black holes, all of that information's gone in there, and then the black hole starts to shrink and gets to the point where it vanishes, and then at that point anything that went in there is the information, the intelligence, the memory of that thing is vanished with it. So this actually led to an enormous conversation, a dialogue, an argument, a wrestle, a battle within the quantum physics world, because it kind of led to great debate in terms of, is that possible that information can be lost? Is it non-negotiable? Does it have to somehow stay? And when we think about it from a 33 principles point of view, intelligence is 100%, so you can't somehow lose it. So there was this enormous wrestle and struggle to figure out what was really going on here. So the upshot of all of this was when they kind of got to the end of this argument, and I guess it's still ongoing in some ways, was that in quantum physics certain pieces of information must be preserved in some way. So what we're going to watch now is another short video. There's a number of quantum physicists being interviewed here, and the MC is going to introduce the topic. But first of all, he's going to define what is information. And hopefully as you see in talking about this, you'll see that the artistic license that I'm taking is I'm saying that the information they're talking about is what we call intelligence. It's the information that leads to organisation. It's what drives things. It's what determines how things fit together. And then they're also going to talk about this concept of the black hole, the information, the argument that went on with Stephen Hawking. So enjoy this next little video as well. So we've seen in our 33 principles that there's the three dimensions of life. We have our force, we have our matter, and we have our intelligence. So does that same three dimensions happen? We looked at the theorem of special relativity where E equals m and c squared. So there's three dimensions within the quantum physics world. So let's look a little bit more at this idea of information. So ask anybody what the physical world is made of, and you are likely to be told matter and energy. That's Newtonian physics. Matter over here, energy over here. Yet, if we have learned anything from engineering, biology and physics, information is just as crucial as an ingredient. In fact, what I would propose is that E equals mc squared. Speed of light is just a mathematical number. I would actually say that the c is the information. It's this mysterious third dimension that makes things fit together, that organises things, that structures things and makes things intelligent, makes them work.